You know you've seen the ads, come on. Charlize Theron, George Clooney, or Richard Branson, they're inviting you to this fantastic dinner or experience. And if it's not that, it's a chance to win a supercar or even a house. And of course, I'm talking about Omaze, that charity that the rich and famous support. So the charity started with basketball, frustration, and with death. But they have made millions of dollars. And sometimes it feels like it's too good to be true. And it probably is. So let's talk about Omaze in this episode of Company Forensics. Remember, by the way, the first 5 comments on any of our videos get free access to my weekly office hours session. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell button to stay tuned on when our videos go live. How Omaze started. Ryan Cummings and Matthew Polson have worked in foundations and charities for years. And the two lifelong friends loved working in the media industry as well. In fact, their CVs are pretty impressive. So they worked with Bill Clinton's foundation, and they created the Girl Rising documentary, which was directed by Oprah Winfrey herself. This bit of film led to a nonprofit organization for women's education, so the two had great connections with celebrities and with the nonprofit world. But this world of nonprofits and charities wasn't perfect. And this frustration is a key part of Omaze's origin story. Cummings and Polson loved basketball. Since they were friends with the wealthy, they attended exclusive auctions, and one prize was a chance to hang out with Magic Johnson, and they both idolized him. So it cost more than $15,000. And they of course couldn't afford it. And the two rubbed elbows with celebrities all the time. And yes, they had worked with foundations, even helped organizing the Live Earth concert. But they weren't exactly millionaires. So Polson, for example, was $200,000 in debt because of business school. Plus, they felt their activities reached a really close elite circle and not the entire world. So the two created a platform where regular people could win this celebrity experience. And that's really how Omaze was born. And the equation sort of made sense, right? They knew celebrities and they had worked in these foundations, so investors were keen on participating. But Omaze actually got off to a slow start. First of all, it had no previous reputation, so convincing fans was tough. Plus, the first experiences weren't really that impressive. The first one was being a guest judge on Cupcake Wars, and it ended up raising $750. But the two believed in the idea, and they kept at it, even when death knocked on the door. The deadly struggle to grow. So, thanks to celebrity contacts, Omaze managed to outgrow the cupcake experience. Prizes now included a date with George Clooney or wine tasting with Jennifer Lawrence. By the way, Clooney did a pair more, but after he got married, neither was a date. So from a celebrity standpoint, it was rolling. But as a business model, the founders really struggled to find a way to scale the business. So their platform for everyone to bid on celebrity experience ended up being a niche market, which is ironic. But look at reality. First of all, the bidder has to be a fan of said celebrity, then the activity has to be appealing to that fan. So their challenge was to make more mainstream prices. And then in 2018, Polson died. You see, Polson was born with a twisted stomach. It's a condition that can generate a lot of scar tissue, but people can live a normal life. However, in 2018, some of Polson's scar tissue detached and caused a major blockage. He was rushed to the hospital and doctors intervened, but his pressure kept dropping until at one point he flatlined. So for 4.5 minutes, Polson's heart didn't beat. Doctors were frantic to save him, but nothing happened. And then, just like that, he came back to life. After hours of hard work, he was stable, and the recovery was long, but he has said that this experience fueled growth for Omaze. So after recovering, he got back to work and ran into lukewarm news. Omaze still hadn't found a way to grow a business that relied only on experiences. Was it a problem of the way they were doing things, or what if people didn't really actually want an adventure? So Cummings and Polson found the answer with James Bond. Daniel Craig promoted a chance at winning an Aston Martin DB7. This price differed from the norm as most focused on experiences. So they didn't project high income for the Aston Martin. Well, it turns out people wanted that car really bad. So yes, it exceeded all expectations. To confirm their theory, their founders brought a $250,000 McLaren. They estimated that it would raise around $500,000, and the final result was $1.9 million. So getting wasted with Jennifer Lawrence isn't as interesting, it seems, as a supercar. Interesting. So right here, they decided to change gears. Of course, Omaze still included celebrity experiences, but the company would double down on vehicles, houses, and vacations. And it worked. The numbers behind Omaze. From the change in 2018 to 2020, Omaze has seen incredible growth. And yes, hold on to that adjective. Unbelievable growth. Polson claims that Omaze grew 500% in 2 years. Now, I'm not saying that's not true, but it is hard to grasp. Still, investors believe in Omaze. In its Series B funding round, Omaze raised $30 million. Plus, the founders claim that by 2020, Omaze has generated more than $130 million in gross income for different causes. And then the celebrities. Yes, they love Omaze. You have Bono and Richard Branson and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and Charlize Theron. They all flock to offer experiences. So at least in front of the camera, Omaze seems to be working. Now, Omaze doesn't divulge revenue numbers. This is because it's private and it doesn't have to. But here's where it gets interesting. The company has never denied that it is a for-profit company. In fact, they're vocal about their goals of becoming the first for-profit to give $1 billion in charity in a year. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a for-profit company. We are as well. But how exactly do they make money? So let's use a $10 donation as an example. First, Omaze takes 20% of all donations for themselves, as it's a for-profit company. So that leaves us $8. Then 65 to 75% of the donation goes to cover the cost. These include organization, logistics, and with cars, it's getting the vehicle to the winner. So let's say that it's 65%. That means that there's $1.50 of the original $10 left for the charity. Now, Omaze is pretty open about this. In fact, their website says that the net donation is between 12 and 20%. Also, it promises that more people will donate by having such a low entry barrier. It's $10 or $20. Still, we're talking $1.50 out of 10. But speaking of numbers and this pricing, I want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor for today's video, which is ChartMogul. It's funny that they came to be our sponsor after we've been their customer for way longer than that. So ChartMogul lets you track your SaaS metrics in full detail by connecting all your different sources of revenue, from Stripe to ChargeBee to PayPal, and even your own spreadsheets. So it's been key to the success of our business, especially when we've had to rethink our pricing strategy. We actually made a whole video about how we had to pivot our pricing because our churn sucked. So more recently, they published this incredible report on pricing. They studied over 600 pricing pages to find insights and trends on how different SaaS companies approach pricing. Their report was really killer, and it was key to us defining pricing for a bunch of products that we're about to release. So you can download it on the link in the description. Also, ChartMogul is free for any company under $10,000 in MRR. So you can go to chartmogul.com/Slidebean for an exclusive extra deal beyond that. Omaze isn't all that perfect. If I were to ask you right now what the difference between Omaze and a lottery is, what would you say? Is it the prices? Maybe. Most lotteries don't include riding a tank with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But you'd be wrong. The only difference between Omaze and a lottery is that you don't have to buy entries to participate. And why did they do that? Well, Omaze operates in the US and the UK. In those two countries, lotteries cannot be for-profit unless they meet a certain percentage. Omaze doesn't. So to avoid the term lottery, Omaze must allow for free participation. And you can. In fact, you can get up to 2,000 entries for free. But then you can donate to increase those to as much as 6,000. Now, in case you're wondering, there's really no difference in probabilities. Omaze claims that free entries have as big a shot at winning as donations do, but that's what people are contesting. There are several complaints of free entries winning a prize and then running into a world of trouble to redeem it. Claiming it becomes difficult and tedious, and some don't even get it. Finally, it got so bad that the California Attorney General filed an investigation against Omaze. Though the company has been avoiding the term lottery, the state is considering it as one. It also filed a claim that Omaze was illegal, but the company was quick to act. Omaze settled the investigation for $120,000. But it of course didn't end there. The Northern District of California filed a class action lawsuit against Omaze for illegal activities. The claim is that it misled the general public into believing that the entirety of the donation went to charity. Even the UK version of Omaze has seen controversy. When Omaze UK launched, the Advertising Standards Agency filed a complaint as well. Apparently, Omaze didn't explain that you could take part for free. As for the UK prices, they're controversial as well. For example, Omaze UK has given away several mansions, and one such prize had high risks of flooding. Another one was on a cliff, and some engineers consider that in years it might fall down. In fact, 2 of the 3 winners have already sold their houses, and the 3rd one is considering it. Now, Omaze has insisted that it does due diligence with all prices, but it has a tough time shedding a bad reputation. Google Omaze reviews and you'll find a mix of opinions. So what caught our attention with this story is that they're all absolutes. Some people hate it with their guts, as several customers complain of a poor customer experience and unwanted fees. Others rant about it being fake and a scam. And then you go on to the positive reviews, and they all seem to be too perfect. The comments don't seem authentic. I can't say the same about media coverage. It's just too nice. Yes, Paulson is a warrior for overcoming adversities. The founders have a great equation for their business, but there are few, if any, articles that analyze and criticize the platform. For me, that's fine, but to a degree. So we wanted to dig deeper, and that's why we make this video. Now, let's make one thing clear. There's evidence of some of the winners. One of them even took to Reddit for an AMA. So the prizes do exist, even though most of the videos come directly from Omaze. That means that, yes, you might win a trip to space or a date with your favorite celebrity, and like most lotteries and raffle, people understand that the chances of winning are super small. Add to that Omaze is open about the fact that they are making money. And yes, the money goes to good causes, but it's this very tiny percentage of it. So we have to ask ourselves, is it a charity? Well, no, it's a business that gives out spare change to charities. So is that wrong? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments.